turned these loose when I found a couple tomato hornworms the other day, and within about a day they had them all done and killed. Last year the wild birds came and took care of them for me because I keep bird seed out, but this year I wanted to try my little pullets. These are just this year's hatchery. So they've done a great job for me. You can see over there it stripped some of the leaves on one of my cherry tomatoes. This is the only tomato that they've been on though, and I didn't find any last night. Pro tip, tomato hornworms glow in the dark. So if you go out at dark with a flashlight, you can see them all and pick them off. But my main tomatoes that I'll be canning with and such, they don't have any on them. And I think there's a benefit, that was the plan, a benefit to having tomatoes in two different places with some blank area between them where I don't have anything planted. That seems to have worked really well. So, and also we have this grassy area between the tomatoes and the chickens, and my hens really seem to eat anything that comes within, well, you can see the edge there. They eat anything that comes between them and the grassy area, so that's cool too. What I'm really trying to do here in my garden is create a sustainable system that has natural pest control and provides for everything that we want to eat. I'm going to plant some green beans on this trellis probably later on today. We had our bees in here for the first time this year after we lost them to drought a couple of years ago. And so I let part of my garden just natural, like wildscaped around my fruit trees. And then I have a path, of course. Goodness, ducks, leading back up to the garden area. But this provided the necessary pollinators for the bees, and that's worked out just fine. I'm not worried about it. I can mow it off. It'll mostly lay down by fall, and I can lay that all off. But that's why the garden looks, quote, messier this year than before. I want the garden to produce somewhat naturally. For example, I need to mulch this, but this came up last year, the little yellow squash. This came up from seeds on its own, volunteer, my grandma would have called it, and she would have pulled it up and burned it. I didn't do that because I wanted to see how it would produce on its own, and it's doing lovely, actually. And again, I need to get some mulch around it just so it's not competing with the grasses and the wildflowers around it. But overall, I'm pleased with the whole setup this year. And I think that's really what I'm going for, is a sustainable system, not only in terms of ecology and growth and production and all those things, but also for me. Like, I'm not getting any younger. You don't get any younger. You only get older as the years go by. And so I want to be out here in my garden for years. Motivated me to set this up in such a way that I can enjoy my garden for a very long time without worry of it being too much of a workload, about, hurting I have a previous back injury, hurting that. I mean, there are many things that have motivated me to set it up the way that I have. One of them, not the least of which, is aging. It's a natural part of life. You can ignore it and say, oh, I'll deal with that later, but I don't think that's a wise approach overall. So ideally, the system would be set up for us to garden, well into our older years, and it's an enjoyable process. It's not too burdensome or labor intensive. That's the idea behind it. This week's book review is Prairie Fires by Carolyn Fraser. If you've ever been a fan of Laura Ingalls Wilder, you will want to read this book. She takes all the missing pieces from the childhood and probably what really happened versus the fictional accounts of her childhood and her growing up years, and puts them together all here. She also includes the the weather at the time, the historical things that are happening at the time. Just a fantastic book if you've ever liked pioneer life or anything about Laura Ingalls Wilder. There's a link below in the description to sign up for the weekly book giveaway, and I ship it to you for free and everything. There's no catch. Just click the link below, put your name and email in it, and we'll see if I can send you this book.